Question and answers at the Sivananda Yogi Camp, the 50th anniversary. Swami Mahadevananda, Swami Sarupananda, and Srinivasan. Hariom Tat Sat.
The mysterious elements of any religious or philosophical system. The shelves of bookstores are overloaded with numerous new developments and streamlined approaches to meditation. But many are by the blind leading the blind, with little or no experience to back the methods they tout. There are one-sided fanatics, mantra hucksters, and outright charlatans. Some promise rapid development of psychic powers. Others are modern spiritual propagandists and conmen. Even the Madison Avenue contingent is well represented. There are only a handful of selfless masters teaching true spiritual disciplines of meditation. Real meditation is liberation from the clutches of the senses and lower mind. By definition, it is transcendental, the word not being used as an advertising slogan, but to convey the beauty of meditation, in which all fears, desires, longings, and negative emotions are transcended.
Om Namah Shivaya. So that's what a glimpse of what you heard. Okay, so these are 2 CDs here. They are MP3. You can play in your car, you can play in your CD player. Okay, so officially it's been released today and it will be available in our boutique all over the world. And the price is $29.95. And if you buy it this weekend, it's only $15. Okay, thank you very much. Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
So if you have any questions, otherwise we're going to talk about Vedanta for 2 hours, right? So you better start. Radha has a question. You can ask the question.
What was your first meeting of Swami Vishnu?
Me?
Yes.
It's a long story. I'll try to make it short. I was living in Paris at that time, or 1968. It was a very exciting period to be in Europe. Whatever went on here the year before in Berkeley was happening, 2 years before. It was happening in Europe, in France, in Germany, in Italy, a little bit in Spain. And as a matter of fact, they closed down the Sorbonne University for 8 months. I couldn't go to school. The students took over completely, complaining against the government. But then Charles de Gaulle came with his prime minister, foreign minister, Marie Stuve de Morville, and put a nice blanket, like they did here, over the whole new ideas, a new philosophy, a new wind of change, and everybody and everything went back to the same thing. So at that time, I'm fed up. So I left Paris. The idea to come to the United States, and I did so in a charter flights. At that time it was cheap. You know how much was it, charter between Paris and Boston? $250, round trip. Okay? It was pretty cheap. So I did came to Boston. I wanted to go to one of the colleges there. They told me it would take a little while. It was month of August. And I went around for a while. I didn't know anybody. Then suddenly a telegram came from the very charter flights agency from Paris saying that I had to return to Paris, not from Boston, but from Montreal. At that time was the Expo, 67 and 68, it was 1 year long. So probably they tried to create a little bit of interest. I wasn't so happy, said supposedly I did not have any money, I was stuck in Boston, so to speak. Anyway, I came with the Greyhound to Montreal, and I went to see the expert for 2 or 3 days, 4 days. 4 days, actually. Then I got a little tired. I said, let's see if there's anybody I can talk to. I was already practicing yoga. I was already vegetarian. So I looked up in the yellow pages at that time, and I saw Sivananda Institute, and then Sivananda Yoga Vedanta Center. I said, Sivananda Yoga Vedanta Center looks a little bit too long, you know. Let's try the Sivananda Institute. And I tried, but was it sudden? It was closed. Then I tried the Sivananda Yoga Vedanta Center, and the old lady Swami was there, Swami Ramananda, for those of you who met her. And she said, yes, this is yoga, and what do you do? What's it all about? So, well, he's a Swami from India, from Sivananda Ashram, Rishikesh. Ah, so good, can I meet him? Because already I met some other Swami in Europe at that time. But it's not here, she said, it's in Laurentians. Where is the Laurentian? Well, it's 50 miles north of Montreal. And if you're coming right away, within an hour there'll be a car coming to here. So I rushed up from downtown Montreal. I was staying at the YMCA. And I came up here, was Saturday morning, and in the hotel met Swami Vishnu. And I played around the swimming pool, the same one. And nothing happened. Satsang at night, nothing happened. So I said, well, tomorrow morning I have to go. Then the Swami said, no, he'll come out today, I'm sure. So around about 11 o'clock, he came around, slowly was walking around. Somebody around the cave said, go and meet him. And I met him in the Sri Krishna temple, Sri Krishna 3 there. And I was trying to introduce myself. He didn't let me talk. I mean, she knew he was natural. Okay? And he said, stay here, stay here, stay here. I said, all right. So I don't have even a toothbrush. I came yesterday, I'm supposed to go back yesterday. I'm still here today, and I just came to see you. He said, no, stay here, get a room. He really insisted very hard. So I got a room. I said, I'm not going back tonight. It was a long weekend. And I stayed on. Then on Monday, I said, well, maybe it's a good idea. Instead of going back to Europe and then come back next year, a lot of money, time traveling, a lot of everything, might as well stay in Montreal, and then when the papers are ready at the university, take a Greyhound and go down, it's not far. But the problem is, I had a little Italian passport, and said, well, I've got 3 months, so I need at least, a year or something, or 6 months. So then I went immigration on Wednesday morning. And I said, this is my passport, and I would like to stay here for at least another 6 months to 8 months. Can you do something? Well, he said, only way that you can stay here for that long period of time if you decide to stay here as landed immigrant. I said, who wants to stay here landed immigrant? This is Canada for me, just, the Indians, boom, 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 boom. I said, who wants to stay in Canada? But then I thought, well, before going back, that costs money, costs against. Okay, so that I'll try to stay as a land immigrant. Okay, come inside. Right then and there, we had an interview, about 5 minutes. We put on the passport, land immigrants. All right, so I did write to the travel agency and said, I'm not coming back, I lost the ticket. And then I found myself a little job. I found myself a prep school in Montreal to prepare myself for the exams, which is quite different from the European standard. And then find a house which we taken with 2 French boys. And luckily, this house we got was in Park Avenue, which is about 5 minutes walk from the center. So I used to go down there most of the time because they give you free food. I was a vegetarian. It was very difficult to get vegetarian food. As a matter of fact, the first time I went in St. Lawrence Wood, there was a pizza. So I said, I can eat something vegetarian. So I didn't know. I said, can I have a pepperoni pizza? In Italian, pepperoni is what do you call it, the green, yeah, the green peppers, you know, so I said, you know, vegetarian. So I said, what's meat? I said, look, and I said, pepperoni. I said, this no, I said, pepperoni is the yellow things, you know. No. Okay, I said, sorry, I can't eat it, I'm vegetarian. So I had to eat another pizza. So, so I stayed here, the karma brought me here by chance. I was supposed to be here a couple of weeks and then go back to Europe. The agency played its role. Then the house was next door to the center. I used to go regularly, at least 3 times a week. Weekends, most of the time, I used to come up here. Also because girls are there, I didn't know anybody. You know, yoga I was vegetarian. I was practicing yoga, but you know, still wanted to become a lawyer and do this. And so yoga was not the mainstream, so to speak. So then finally in November, I was doing the final relaxation at the Montreal Center, it's a Lawrence Boulevard. And the idea came that yoga was my life. Very clear. To become a lawyer, you have to, as you know, some of you have to all the time plan a scheme and how to convince everybody about this and that and that and that and that. You try to manipulate people's mind, that's it basically. Okay? And I said, no, that's enough, it's not for me. And the moment I felt that, I felt great peace inside. Nothing mystical, but peace of mind. That convinced me to stay. So I decided I'm going to stay here. It was November. I sent the news to my father and sister, etc. So, oh my God, I lost my son, you know, this North America, the hippies, the Beatles are there, all this story. I said, whoa, what's happened to my son? I said, nothing serious, all, you know, get up at 5:30, try to describe what we do here. And then finally, 3-4 years later, he came to see, he became vegetarian. He saw me chopping the trees here. Exactly, isn't it? Right back here, we are preparing the cross-country train for the winter with chainsaw. So somebody appeared, he saw me with the chainsaw, said, what are you doing? That's the life you're doing? I said, yeah, I'm quite happy. Then, you know, we spoke for a while, and he said, okay, teach me how to use a chainsaw. So, like Ganesha had to explain to Lord Shiva what Om is all about. I had to explain to my father what the chainsaw looks like. And so he was quite happy. So, long story short, it was all karma. In retrospective, I saw that I never meant to come to Canada. It was out of the question. I never contemplated the fact. But then I came here because the travel agent said, okay, your return is from here. Then I was to stay here about 10 days and go back. I met Swami Vishnu and probably planned the idea, stay here. When the immigration said, yes, you can be landed immigrant, boom. All the doors suddenly opened. And then, being close to the center, I used to go to the center quite often and get a free meal. Later on, only found out they were supposed to give a donation. I used to have a free ride. I didn't know, but then, you know, I had to cook a lot to pay my car. I became quite a good cook. So then, since then, it came in January 68, Christmas 68, he came up on the house which burned down, said, I needed staff to the Montreal Center. It was a girl, she was a teacher, she was from Florida, and she couldn't stand the winter. And Sivananda said, would you like to go to the Montreal Center? I said, yes, sure, why not? And on January 2nd, I went down to the Montreal Center, I became staff. Then in 78, he sent me to India, I said, thank you, bye-bye, go. That's it. That's the beginning, okay? Okay, now that's the question. Becomes one man show. Vishnu-devananda, SYVC, please ask questions. Yes. Wait a second, so we can't hear you.
I would like to know about Swamiji's scientific experiments. I've heard he did something, but never really into detail.
Well, actually, both Swami Sivananda and I was involved with the lab for about 3 years, and Swami Sivananda was one of the main guinea pigs. So, Swamiji was really fascinated. Well, he was very fascinated by science, but not only that, he wanted to prove to people the benefits of yoga using a language that Western people could understand, and our main religion here is science. So we, our doctors are our priests, and so Swamiji did a lot of different experiments. The first experiments that he started doing experiments with plants and playing music and seeing how the plants would react to different types of music. If they would, if you play like violent music, the plants were not happy, and they would die. And then he started using and played good music, and the music the plants would react to the music. And he got a lie detector. What do you call a lie detector machine?
Lie detector, and hooked up to the plants.
Hooked up to the plants, and they start hooking up to well, basically, there are different physiological reactions that are used to be able to tell if somebody is telling the truth or not. So hook a person up to their breathing and their heartbeat, and certain waves are polygraph, basically is what it's called. So he started to do experiments just to see how, and this was like a very primitive form of biofeedback for meditation, and to show how people would be, the minds would come down with meditation, with pranayama. And then in what year it was?
He used to put the plants here, I remember one morning, to see how it would react. Actually, they used to have the
chanting.
Yeah, the chanting. When we first came in, the plants were put at night, they signal kind of panic, and people come in noise, this and that and that and that. Then was silent meditation. It was very peaceful. And then we started chanting, and immediately showed a great joy. And remember the first time that the astronaut landed on the moon, we were in Swamiji's house, in the Orange House, and the plants were hooked up right here where the two statues of Swami Sivananda and Swami Vishnu are. Behind was a little kind of tool room. So we put the plants there, we hooked them up. And when the first man Armstrong put the foot on the moon, it was a great joy, jumping around. Okay? So he did a lot of experimentation, actually called Dr. Baxter, which was one of the inventors of the contribution to the lie detector. He told us stories about plants and other, so many, things went on at that time. It was the first time we had some experimentation on plants, saying that plants, for instance, at random, from a computer, he would drop a live crabs in hot boiling water. It would be instant death. And the plants were far away, isolated. So at random, the computer would drop the crab on the hot water. Each time, on a split of a second, the plant used to react. Okay? So to say there are no stupid plants, but or dark as within they are, They have emotion, they have feelings, they have joy or happiness, fear, like any one of us. Okay? And an experiment they did, they gave about 15 or 30 plants to half of a high school class, and we were told, treat these plants as plants. Same number of plants. To another group of the same class, say, treat these plants as your friend. Talk to them with love. So they came back after 3-4 months. There's a great difference of growth between the plants which are being treated as plants which are being treated like human beings. So a lot of experimentation was done at that time. That was the first time actually. But he used to do a lot of gadgets inside himself. We used to buy these chemicals, you know, the children used to play around his house all the time.
And then in the mid-late 70s, Swamiji wanted to show psychic phenomena. At least, I don't know how long he was, but he was working with Marilyn Rosler and also with her husband, Professor John Rosler. And they were doing, when did you start doing the symposiums?
Oh, we started the symposiums in Nassau in 1975. 76.
76. So it was around 76, 77, and he did a tour around. Actually, when I first met Swamiji, we went down for a psychic symposium in New York from the camp with Marcel Vogel and
Lawrence LaShawn.
Yeah. So they were actually touring with Marilyn and John and the forefront and also the astronaut Edgar Mitchell, who also was doing psychic experiments when he was going to the moon. So Swamiji what he was trying to show was physiologically and also to prove that psychic phenomena, so that people wouldn't just see that the world is physical, but that most of what we're dealing with is on a psychic level. And even asanas that we're doing, 90% of what you're doing with asanas is really on a psychic. Communication, when we're communicating with each other, most of our communication is psychic and not even verbal. But all of this, so Swamiji had a great interest in this, and I don't know, maybe Marilyn could speak a little bit.
I was with him.
Use the mic. Marilyn, use the mic, please. You have a mic?
Yeah.
Swamiji was also doing a tremendous amount of research in the former Soviet Union. He was working with the scientists in the laboratory to show the effect of the breath on certain kinds of physical conditions.
I can't hear you. We have to speak louder.
Swamiji was also doing a tremendous amount of research with some of the scientists and medical doctors in the former Soviet Union.
Especially in Prague.
Especially in Prague, but also actually in what was at that time Russia. And he was at that time, he was working with Dr. Krennikov, etc. And they were doing the physical asanas and showing the effect of that in the psychiatric units. Swamiji also was working with different scientists, especially with the breath, and not only in Prague, but also in Poland as well. So in the former Soviet Union, they were extremely interested in this phenomena. Actually, in one place, it was in Russia, that we had the opportunity to meet a woman. Her name was Juna. She was considered to be the greatest medium psychic of Russia, and Swamiji worked with her as well. And he was always interested in understanding things in a scientific way. He was really the forerunner. I mean, he was the forerunner of everything that we see now. You know, the first TTC, the first children's camp. I mean, he was the one who brought people together from every religion, every philosophy, every walk of life.
So I guess it was in the mid 80s, about 1986, 87. He started to bring, I get the Ukrainian doctors first. He brought Pentecost, and started, and he would give everybody TTC and had the doctors taking yoga teachers training course, and then actually some of them actually started yoga centers when they went back. And then he brought the doctors from Prague. There was a group of doctors, and again during the former Soviet times, the research was not so much about money, but they could really do research, pure research, and they had been working with the Swamiji, what's the name of the group in Bombay, the research?
Vivekananda Kendra.
No, the other one.
No, not
yeah. Kaivalyanam. Yeah. So that, and they had been working. The research that had been done in India in the mid 1900s or early, and they had done all kinds of X-rays. And so they had researched all of the yoga research that had been done on the asanas and the pranayama, and then they were taking it a step further, and they were working with modern EEG, EKG machines, and actually Swamiji brought in the state-of-the-art computers at the time for doing EEG. The machine was $120,000 when you bring it across the border. It was a whole adventure as well. And the stone house was the laboratory.
He also did a tremendous research in psychiatry. He would go to what was at that time the Douglas Hospital, the largest psychiatric hospital, and he would offer yoga first to the doctors and nurses. And we had about 300 doctors and nurses taking yoga. It was the first time this was ever done in North America. And then some of these exercises, the 12 basic postures and some of the basic pranayama, was offered to the inmates in the hospital. But so he was the first one who went into the psychiatric units.
And then when Swamiji did the first sadhana intensive, people were asking, what was the sadhana that you did when you were raising Kundalini, when you were in the Himalayas? And he decided to share it with everyone. And so one summer, he spent the whole summer teaching about pranayama, and Swami Srupananda was, and Swami Sukadevananda were the two main. I mean, there were other people who were doing studies on the Swamiji, who were showing the pranayamas, which is why Swami Srupananda has been teaching the sadhana intensive, because he was given instruction directly from Swamiji on the pranayamas to do for the both for the sadhana intensive and also for the lab. So Swamiji spent many hours with us in the lab and hooked up to all the machines, and just to show the physiological changes and the brain changes. And there were some quite amazing results that came out of it. One of the results was in the Kapalabhati, was the stimulation of the olfactory nerve of the brain, which is a very ancient part of the brain, which helps to regulate the ancient part of the brain when you practice your Kapalabhati. We also actually Swamiji himself was a guinea pig, and he sat for meditation for us, and we had him hooked up. And all of you hear about alpha waves, delta waves in meditation. When Swamiji did his meditation, the alpha waves were very, very high. The beta waves were at the very, very high. The delta waves were very, very high. So it was in every aspect of it was a total activation of the brain from a EEG perspective. He also took all of this equipment to India. We had this $120,000 machine. We needed to bring it into India. Actually, Prahlad was when I first got to work with Prahlad, and we spent a couple of weeks getting the equipment through the customs in Bombay and all of that. It was also quite an adventure. But anyway, maybe Swamiji can speak a little bit about the experiments that he did, Swamiji.
Swamiji did many types of researches in relation of yoga and science. Before I speak about the experiments regarding Hatha Yoga and meditation, I want to mention a few other things which are well known. Swamiji was very much interested in the research of Dr. Motoyama from Japan on the subject of the chakras, the energy centers. Dr. Motoyama developed a machine that could measure the activity of the chakras, and Swamiji purchased that machine, and it was at Swamiji's house. He worked with that chakra measuring machine. It was a large machine. He was very much interested into it. Swamiji also was interested in Krillian photography, photographing the aura, and he brought an expert from India on the Krillian photography, and the expert tested a whole group of TTC. At that time it was a very large TTC, over 100 people, before the TTC, during the TTC, after the TTC, and there were major differences in the aura measurements. Also, the doctor was able to predict diseases through analysis of the aura. And again, it was visible that certain diseases that developed already on the subtle level disappeared at the end of the TTC. It was demonstrated. So he was also interested in this. And also he used the same equipment as Srinivasan said in order to measure the energy of the participants of the kavadi. And while the person was dancing with 108 spears in his body, in ecstasy, the measurement equipment showed that all the electrical waves in the brain were at their highest amplitude. So the alpha, the beta, the theta, and the delta simultaneously. The whole brain was on fire. And
the same as his meditation, actually, when we did the research of him in the lab doing meditation.
So he did this also. Now regarding the lab, Swamiji connected with an institute which was affiliated to the University of Prague. It was called the Institute for the Research of Human Physiology. And that institute specialized in the research of yoga practices. Swamiji met them in Prague, and he built a laboratory here in the ashram. It was in the stone house, and he brought the researchers in the stone house. And he brought the researchers, and they came, and for 2 years they conducted research regarding Hatha Yoga. And then for the 3rd year they conducted research regarding meditation. And I was one of the guinea pigs there, as Srinivasan mentioned. I was a guinea pig in the Hatha Yoga experiments. I was fortunate to be guided closely by Swamiji during that period. I had to go through all the intense Hatha Yoga practices, being hooked to all of these machines, and there were some good results. And then I was also involved in the experiments regarding meditation in the 3rd year. Then Swamiji ended these experiments. I also want to mention another thing that Swamiji did. he experimented with the effect of electromagnetic fields, magnetobiology. He brought here Dr. Shankar Narayan, and in the stone house he built a whole lab. And this lab was a lab which was able to produce any type of electromagnetic field. They built a huge machine. The person will sit in the machine and different electromagnetic fields were created, and then
they were micro. It was not like a high energy. I mean, it was done on a very, very subtle level.
And the research was to see how these electromagnetic fields are affecting the human body, the human mind, healing, and so on. Swamiji followed this research also with great interest. And so, as you all heard, Swamiji was involved almost in any and every field of science. Also, he was one of the first ones to expose the audience that was here in the ashram to the effect of electromagnetic fields on our body. He brought in the author of the book, The Body Electric. It's one of the most famous works on the effect of electromagnetic fields on the human body. He brought the person here and to describe to the people how the electromagnetic fields are affecting us. And he did it many years back. And he was even involved in things which were considered controversial. For example, one year he had here a UFO convention, and he brought Dr. Hynek and all the famous UFO people, and
Greer.
No, not Dr. Greer. No.
Dr. Hynek was the professor, which was put in charge of the Blue Book. The American government wanted to find out the seriousness about the UFO. And Hynek did not want to do it, being a professor, even studied Illinois. And it's a kind of story. Finally, we convinced him, like John Mack later on from Harvard. And he followed the protocol and procedure, and he said, yes, do exist. After that was the end of his career, so to speak. And he came here and he spoke at great length about UFOs, abductions, etc., etc.
It was a big convention, and they would meet at the Orange House after the lectures. And one day I was sitting at the boutique, where the boutique area was down there, and the famous Man in Black appeared. And I just happened to be there. And they started, but I knew the literature, they started to ask questions. So they asked me, what's going on here? So I said, well, this is a yoga ashram. What are you doing here? Well, we teach proper exercise, proper breathing, proper diet, and so on. And they asked me more questions, then they lost interest and they left. But it was an interesting experience. This happened during this conference. And then Swamiji continued, and he did research also regarding near-death experience. He had connection with Dr. Moody. He did research about life between lives. I forgot the name of that person that he was bringing, a very famous person. Life between lives, then life after life. And in reality, there was almost no field under the sun that Swamiji was not interested in, that he did not research, that he didn't bring. And then, of course, he was interested in the connection between yoga and acupuncture. It means nadis and meridians, yoga and homeopathy, yoga and Ayurveda, yoga and peace. One year he had a symposium, Generals for Peace. He brought all of these generals. They sat on the floor and they were chanting Jai Ganesha, Jai Ganesha. And they were important generals. Harbottle from
General Harbottle.
General Harbottle and other generals sitting on the floor and chanting Jai Ganesha for peace. And He did so many things. So many, like, he actually was an example of his vision of unity and diversity. So that was Swamiji.
One last thing, as far as science goes, he was very interested in sustainability, and an experiment with his house was in the 1979 when he built the house, put solar in the house, was redirected the water, and had a permaculture. Brought the permaculture was just being introduced. He brought Bill Mollison to how to live sustainably. We're not going to be able to. The theme of being able to survive into the 21st century on level of peace and level of how we communicate with each other, health, and then also just in how we live and how we can live in a sustainable way. What's going to happen when we turn the electricity off, or we don't have the fossil fuels and this type of thing. So he was just visionary, but he was a practical visionary. He experimented.
That was a long answer. To speak louder. They don't hear your passion, is it?
Would you tell us how you came this? I understand it was to translate the complete illustrated book of yoga. That's not true. Please clarify.
Years before I met Swamiji, I was involved with the Divine Life Society to Swami Venkateshananda. I knew Swami Venkateshananda when I was a little child. And then I went to normal life, and I heard about Swami Vishnu-devananda, and then one day I just finished high school, and I went to a bookstore, and I was looking at books about agricultural equipment, like tractors and stuff like this. And there was a shelf with all these books. So I saw something which looked interesting, and there were two also books. There was a book just at the back, small, and the color was red. I was attracted to that book. It was in the shop about tractors. So I pushed my hands in without seeing, and I pulled it out, and it was the complete illustration of yoga by Swami Vishnu-devananda. And I read it, and I was very impressed. And then years later, I was in the army, and I got one day for free, just one day, and I went home, and I picked the newspaper, and I opened the newspaper, and in the newspaper was written that that very day Swami Vishnu-devananda is going to give a lecture and a demonstration in my own city, in a particular place. It was a club of a bank, and I was so happy, and I felt so fortunate because I'm going to meet Swami Vishnu-devananda, with whom I was so impressed after I read the book. And so I went to that place, and I had only one day. I went to that place, very happy, very enthusiastic. And when I came, the doors were closed, it was dark, and there was no notice on the door. And I was very despondent. And I was walking in the middle of the street with hundreds of other people walking there. After 15 minutes walking like this, someone just tapped like this on my shoulder. And I was not a Swami, I was looking just like anybody else, hundreds and hundreds of people walking, but that person tapped on my shoulder. And I looked, and never met this person, and he looks at me and he's asking me, "Are you looking for the yogi?" I was surprised. How does he know that I'm looking for the yogi? Do I have horns? How would he know such a thing? But anyway, I said, yes, I'm looking for the yogi. He said, well, they changed the address of the lecture. I looked, how does he know? There was nobody around me when I tried to get in. There was nobody there. And I asked him, well, where is the lecture? And he told me. I went there, there were many, many people in that hall. But there was no stage, nothing like here. So I was looking around trying to figure out where is he going to sit, because there's so many people, but there was no place for the Swami. I was not sure where he's going to sit, because I was desiring to sit as close as possible to him, but I had no idea where is he going to sit. And then when I read the complete illustrated book of yoga, if you looked at the book, just from reading the book and looking at the pictures, you cannot get an idea of how Swami Vishnu-devananda will look years after. So I had an idea how he looks. I didn't know how tall or how short he is. I just knew him from the book. And then we all felt this energy like a tornado approaching. And there Swamiji arrived. But it was many years back, so he was short, of a dark complexion, and he was quite chubby. He was quite heavy, fat. And I was shocked, because he didn't look like the person in the complete illustrated book of yoga. But anyway, I was very happy that he came. And then he started to do things which surprised me. He didn't sit on a stage, he sat on a table. And so I said, okay, this is fine. And then he started to chant for about half an hour his South Indian mantras. And I didn't like it. And then he started to give a talk. And I didn't like the talk. So the external experience was not very pleasant. But mysteriously, I didn't like how he looks, I didn't like how he talks, I didn't like his mannerisms, I didn't like the talk, the content of the talk, none of this. But mysteriously, I liked him. And I couldn't figure it out, because all my life I was a very logical person. I couldn't figure out, why do I like him? Because everything about him I didn't like, but I liked him. So this was strange. Anyway, because I could feel some power coming from him, and it was the power of truth. But I said, I was talking to myself, maybe he's a charlatan. I was not sure. Then at the end of the talk, he said that all the people can make one row, and they can come one by one and ask him questions. By that time, I was studying and practicing yoga for quite a few years. I think it was 15 years, 16 years, and I studied for years with Swami Venkateshananda and with others, good teachers. So I thought, I said, okay, I'm going to test it. This was the thought in my mind, just to see, is it for real? So also I was in that line. And then came my turn, and before I could open my mind, my mouth, he answered my question, but not verbally. He basically blew my mind, because not only are you asking the question and he answered it, but the way he answered it just blew my mind. So without talking, just saying anything, say, and then I started to ask the people, does Swamiji have any center? I would like to go to the center. They said, oh, very nice center, beautiful people. So I went to the center, very small center, very, very poor, and I liked it. And then when I finished the army, I went to study with him. At that time, he was residing at the yoga retreat in the Bahamas. So I went there, and I took with him a TTC and ATTC. At that time, TTC and ATTC were 6 weeks, not 4 weeks. And the ATTC was the second ATTC in the organization at that time. Also at that time, there were many things going on there. Many psychic phenomena were going on at the yoga retreat. Puharitz was there, and Marcel Vogel was there, and everyone was there. Swami Sri-Devananda, Swami Gokulananda, many were there. Lots of things were going on there. And I desired to study with Swamiji, but I didn't see in him my goal. And in reality, the way it went is that I studied very attentively, but I tried to keep away from him. And if he would walk this side, I would walk the other side. So we don't meet. Then one day, trying to evade him, I was walking, those of you that have been at the yoga retreat, I was walking the path, and Swamiji was in his hammock next to his house, and from far away he called me, come here, come here. And so I came, and again he spoke with me a few words, and in spite of the fact that I didn't want him to be my guru, at that moment there was a clear recognition that he's my guru, as simple as this, and that was the end of it. And he also gave recognition to it. And then afterwards, many things happened. I wanted to stay with him, but then at the end of my stay in the Bahamas, he said, no, you have to go back to your country. So he sent me back, and he kept me there for 10 years. And he knew that I wanted to be with him, but would not let me. Then after I got used to the place where I was, and I was very happy and content, then he just pulled me out of there. And he never let me go back. And then, so, I'm an example of someone who reluctantly recognized that Swamiji is my guru. After I recognized, it was over. But afterwards it was hard work, because his purpose was to break your ego. That was his purpose. And his purpose was to make you do what you don't like to do. So it was a long process. But from my point of view, he fulfilled all his promises. Everything he promised, he fulfilled. And once I recognized him as my guru, I stayed with him. There were periods which were very difficult, but difficult externally, not internally, but externally. But I knew him, he's my guru. And I have exactly the same view. Even with the Hatha Yoga, those that know me are aware of it, that the last thing in the world that I desired was to become a Hatha Yoga guinea pig. But he made me. And the last thing in the world that I desired was to teach the sadhana intensity, but he made me. Or to be trained heavily in Hatha Yoga, but he forced me. Today I am profoundly thankful to him, and so many things. So Swamiji was very special, and so this is the story. Yeah.
So we thank Swamiji for sharing these beautiful words with us, as well as Srinivasa. Now, next question. That's not a question. Anybody there? Was someone that has a question? Yeah. Yes.
I'm a Shindy Bodhisattva. We're here.
It's working.
My question is about the training. Now I know that the teacher training was 6 weeks originally, then you cut in 4. Teaching training all around the world now, how can I say, it's how we can teach in the same way yoga all around the world. So people are different culturally, in different weather conditions, personal condition, cultural condition. There's not the need to update, if I can say that, the training or... Non è facile spiegare in inglese. Non è una domanda provocatoria. This is it.
All right. Well, first of all, we had a manual, which is legal for everybody, in different languages, translated. This is the guideline, academic guideline. But at the spirit, as Srinivasa mentioned, he put together different countries, different people, different religions for the teachings. And yoga is universal. It doesn't belong to a country, to a people, to a religion. It talks about the soul. And the soul being the same for everybody, the teaching is the same for everybody. I mean, I don't see any difference. So the Swamiji has been teaching all over, I believe. Srinivasa all over, myself the same thing. I always, personally, I can say I always teach the same thing. Sometimes even the same stories. Okay? So we have the manual there, plus all of us have been teaching by Swami Vishnu for many years. He's been teaching, sitting there. So something is being left in our coconuts. We try to share with the other people. So it's not a question of languages. When he used to talk to the heart, and he used to talk to the spirit, and that is the same for everybody. That's my opinion.
It's, one of the most beautiful things about the teacher's training course is it does bring together, and not only the courses, but the ashrams and the center, bring people from so many different backgrounds, and where what we focus on is the differences. And what yoga is teaching us to focus on is the similarities. We have the same minds even if we speak with different languages. And most of the courses that he taught were in multiple languages. It used to be there were only 2 courses, and then 3 courses, and then 4 courses. But it was most of the time there would be 4 or 5 different languages. Rich people, poor people, different classes, different educations, everything that we normally look at as being different, he brought people together to show that we are that same self.
He had this great knack to bring everybody together. He doesn't matter who, when. Yes.
Swamiji Pranam. What are the ways to crush the ego, and whether any one of us is successful or could have crushed his or her ego?
You asking me? I don't know. Definitely alone we cannot do it. Okay. Doesn't matter how tough we are, clever we are, intelligent we are, educated we are. Ego is ego. Like right now, is ego talking, nobody else. So you get a point that you recognize that unless there is a good, real good, not just Jack, Dick and Henry on the road, a real spiritual person, a direct experience and access or knowledge to God, there's no way you can break the ego. Unless, like Sivananda has been working for many lifetimes, it reaches the last life, and all he said, I met my Guru one morning to give me sannyas initiation. It was the first and the last time I met the Guru. But let's say I would say the exception that confirms the rule. Okay. All of us, we can go up to a certain level in our own. We read books, we try this and that and that. But then if you want to go deeply into yoga, which means taking care of our own ego, we need a guru. There's no question about it. Okay? And you need a realized guru, not just anybody. It's to, anything we do, okay, ego cannot be defined. How do you define the ego? But anything we do, anything we say, anything we think, is nothing but ego. We are so used to it from birth until death. Actually, we call it me. But this me is nothing but ego and ignorance. And until that is there, we don't know the truth. To remove that kind of impressions very deeply for some scholars, we need a real teacher. But it has to go beyond that, and from the very roots, dig it out. And when that happens, sometimes it's quite painful. But that's the main objective of a teacher. It's an objective of good.
I hope this is appropriate.
Close to
But for instance, I'm curious how the organization would be about adapting some change. I noticed when we chant the Mahamrityunjaya mantra that we don't follow the proper svara. I imagine maybe Swami Vishnu, I don't know if he knew, how to chant with proper svara, or maybe he kind of made it sing-songy to make it more appropriate for the West. But I'm curious if there's a way to fine-tune the chants.
Well, you said first fine-tune your heart, and then the Sanskrit will come. Okay. You never gave to it importance. Swami Sivananda was quite famous. Once he was called to a congress of Sanskrit-speaking people, only Sanskrit, or some place in which he had received it. And they did not speak, but on the way out, a pandit, a learned person, he asked him most probably whether he spoke Sanskrit. Swami Sivananda understood something, and his matter in Sanskrit, but didn't know much. So I stopped for a moment, then he gave an answer in French, and we ran away laughing. That was typical Swami Sivananda. Okay. Of course, Sanskrit should be pronounced correctly, especially mantra should be done correctly. But when it becomes a prime objective, then we lose the spirit behind it. If God doesn't listen to whether we chant Sanskrit correctly, God listens to our own heart, which is correctly in His direction or not. All the rest is important, okay? And naturally, things that are properly, it's important. But what was the likeness of Swami Vishnu is, doesn't matter what, how's your heart? How's your intention? Are they good, are they pure, all the rest, forget it. Okay. And beginning onwards in Sanskrit, I mean, still I don't know my Guru Bhais here, but still I don't know Sanskrit. And I might mispronounce things. But, when the Gita said, look, put your heart into it. And if you give me a little water, a blade of grass, or a pen is good enough for me. I need your heart. So that's what Swami Vishnu, and I believe it was Swami Shivananda. Even though it was very orthodox, ultra-orthodox in Rishikesh. But the last and most important point was, is your heart there or not?
I mean, just two things. Swamiji had us doing puja, and we were butchering the puja. And he came in one day, and there was one of the staff was doing the puja, and he says, "All right, stop. We can't do this anymore." So he actually made a tape of the puja, and he said, "Just play the tape," and we still do it. So and then we brought in a priest, and the priest, who were brought up with Sanskrit. I mean, to become really fluent in Sanskrit, it takes at least 12 years of really hard work, and it's and you have to. That has to be your main sadhana if you're going to really get the Sanskrit. really properly. But at the same time, you know, there is the second part is that when he would come in sometimes and he would hear people chanting the mantras, and without either, whether it's a universal prayer or it's Mamrityunjaya mantra, and the people were kind of sing-songing and not really concentrating. He says, really concentrate on the meaning, chant really hard. And as Swamiji said, the most important thing is that it doesn't matter how precise you are pronouncing it, if you're just focusing on the swara and not focusing on the meaning and actually letting the mantra work with you, then it's not the point.
Okay, so my question would be then, when I go back home to teach people and I chant the Mahamrityunjaya, I mean, should I do it the way the organization does it?
For years we've been trying to polish, we've gotten it down to, so it's much better than it used to be, and I think from my little knowledge of Sanskrit, it's relatively it's close. But again, you go North India and South India, the swara changes. There are different pronunciations.
The Varna is the pronunciation, the svara is the up and down. And
both.
The up and down is pretty similar.
Both change, and even depending on which Veda you're chanting from, you have different. And I think we can always be better at it, but we've done a lot over the years.
Just use your heart and do the Varna, both if you can at the same time. It will be the best way.
I asked the same question. I asked Swamiji the same question. This is the answer that he gave me. He said, you are supposed to repeat the mantra the way you received it from your guru. That's the ultimate rule regarding repetition of mantra. You don't repeat the mantra the way Sanskrit Pandits repeat it. And they may be much more precise. I'll explain regarding the swara, Vedic mantras, because Mahamrityunjaya mantra is a Vedic mantra. Being a Vedic mantra, you have to be very precise with the swara and with the pronunciation. So, we know this thing. But, to understand, the mantra must be repeated as you received it from your guru. Not as you heard it on a tape, or as you heard it from a pandit, but as you heard it from your guru. Mantra is not transmitted by books. Mantra is transmitted from your guru to you. So when Swamiji transmitted to us mantras, he would repeat it, we would listen, we would repeat it after him, he would confirm whether we repeat it right or wrong. And this is how we receive the mantras. Similarly, when we transmit the mantra, we repeat it, whoever receives it listens, he repeats it after us, we confirm. If he does not repeat it correctly, we ask him to repeat it again until we are satisfied. So, the only mantra that can give us mantra siddhi, can give us the result, is the mantra that we receive from our own guru. Nothing else. So even if we repeat the mantra the most accurate, according to the rules of Sanskrit and so on, this mantra cannot give us mantra siddhi. It must come directly from the guru. And I will use an analogy. It's a very important analogy. I heard it directly from Swamiji. I have a credit card and you have a credit card. We have the same plastic, but mine is activated, yours is not. So, although you have the same plastic, you are poor and I'm rich. So, the activated credit card, that's the mantra that you receive from your guru. The unactivated credit card, which is very precise, is the mantra that you did not receive from your guru.
Not to confuse it anymore, but like I was taught by my Sanskrit teacher outside of the organization.
I heard one person speak about it, he said everybody is wrong in the way they pronounce Sanskrit. He was a Sanskrit scholar. Since in the north they don't pronounce the endings. In the south they overpronounce the endings, and so his theory was that all the pundits were wrong, and he was the only person in the right. The pundits will fight over what's correct and what's not correct. There's a lot of it's important to be precise, but it's also not to be too arrogant about it.
Some question.
My question is directed to Swami Sivananda. I've learned.
Keep close to me.
You've talked often about the 3 parts of our lives, and the third one being when the children are grown up. Often the parents have passed away, and also often the mates are no longer around. We find ourselves with this empty slate.
Would you like to continue?
No, that's my question. I need your advice.
We are talking about 4 ashramas, not 3 ashramas, first of all. Yes. In Brahmacharya ashrama, this is the stage of life of being a student. Grihastha, there's a stage of life of being a householder. In Vanaprastha, there's a stage of life of being a hermit in a hermitage. Usually it was in the forest, like here. This is a forest. It's a hermitage. The 4th stage of life is sannyasa, the stage of life of renunciation. The question is about the 3rd stage of life. You are asking my opinion. My opinion is, in my opinion, it would be wonderful if people will enter into the 3rd stage of life when the time comes. It's also, we do not believe that the goal of life is just to repeat the same stage again and again and again. We don't believe it. There is a certain age where we have to go further. To go further means to go further towards the ultimate goal of human life, which is moksha. So, but it depends on the person's karma, or rabda karma. And it depends on the person's desire and the person's inner motivation. So it's not a forced thing, right? It has to come from within. And if it comes from within, one way to enter this stage, a practical way, because we speak practically now. What is a practical way for a Western person during this time to become a vanaprastha? Is to come to an ashram and become stuck. Because you need to be in a hermitage, you need to get the guidance, and you need to dedicate the rest of your life for spiritual purposes. And in our time, this is the way to do it. You come to an ashram, you become staff, you follow the guidance of the acharya, of the teacher, and you progress. And there may come a time where you may have a desire to enter the 4th stage, which is the stage of renunciation, where the only goal in that stage is moksha, is spiritual liberation. So I am very much in favor regarding entering the 3rd stage, very much so. But it depends on the person. Yes.
First and second. Then we close because it's 3:30 against 4 o'clock after we now. So 2 more questions, 1 and 2.
This is a celebration, so we talked a lot about the past and Swami Vishnu. I was just wondering whether you could speak a little bit about the future and the future of the organization.
Well, basically has the same pattern that Swami Vishnu started, is to serve people, to serve humanity. And in our own little capacities, we're trying to do the same thing. What's going to happen afterwards, only God knows. For the present, we try to serve people, serve humanity, do our level best. Okay? So far, so good, so to speak. It is grace, not because of us. Okay? I was in Assisi, which is a famous St. Francis, and he had the same question. And the answer just was, Francis, it's not your organization, it's my organization. So it's not our organization, it's Swami Vishnu organization. What is he going to do? Inshallah. We do our best for the time being, that's what we can do. Okay. Until he's let us know something or show something, we continue doing what has been doing when he was alive, keep serving people, try to teach a little bit, try to practice a little bit, and carry on that way. My opinion.
I saw, they say the spiritual path is a razor's edge. And with Swami Vishnu was always tradition and looking to the future at the same time. And with each person he saw individually. With each person he saw potential within that person. And was awakening within them compassion, tremendous amount of abilities that people have that they're not aware of, within the framework of the structure of the organization, but also allowing for people to grow and for the organization to really take on not the personality of each person, but really that potential that each person has. If you think of Swadharma, rather than personality. Personality, ego, we're trying to get out of the way, but Swadharma, we're trying to allow that to come through. And to each disciple of Swami Vishnu has manifested Swamiji and Swami Sivananda in different ways. And it's really the infinite, the possibilities of that manifestation, if the devotion is there, if the surrender is there, to surrender the ego, but at the same time follow the Swadharma and allow what is coming from within you and connecting with intuition inside, the Swamiji did. And tuning to the Guru means also tuning to one's own intuition, because it's not, intuition doesn't belong to anybody. Intuition is connecting with a universal mind, with a Dharma which is beyond any of our personalities. So it's this is what I see.
During the last meeting that I had physically with Swami vishnu-devananda and Srinivasan was there, we were at his house before the last time that he went to India, when he left his body. It was at the Swamiji's Samadhi estates, and it was a very elevated mood, kind of a little party. All the acharyas were there, and Swamiji, in a very beautiful ways, took leave from us, in a sense. But then at the end of that gathering, that meeting, he spoke to each one. I think Srinivasan will remember. He went from one to one. Be a good acharya. Be a good acharya. Be a good acharya. Be a good Swamiji's. Yes. What does it mean to be a good acharya? He said, take care of this organization. And we understood, and then he added, Because this organization is my body. This is what he said. Because this organization is my body. Take well care of this. This was his explanation. What does it mean to be a good acharya? Be a good acharya. What's the meaning? Take care of this organization. Why? Because this is my body. And it's the duty of the disciple to take care of the body of the guru. Why? Because the body is the vehicle to which the guru carries on his mission. So when Swamiji left this organization, is the vehicle to which his mission and Swami Sivananda mission is carried out. And the other thing that he said, he will never say my mission. He would always speak about Swami Sivananda's mission. He never spoke about his mission. He says, carry on Master's mission, carry on the mission of Swami Sivananda. So each one of us, to the best of our understanding, are trying to do it. We are his disciples. He told us to take care of this organization because it's his body. And he told us also to take care and to carry on Master's mission. So each one of us tries to do it. Our interpretation may be a little different because we are different people. But this is okay. This is how it is. When a guru has different disciples and then he leaves his body, the interpretation will be a little different. Because each one of the disciples carries a piece of the guru in a sense. And so that's what he told. And then my observation is, and the other acharyas that are present here can say, my observation is that after Swamiji left his body, the organization is getting stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger, and it's growing very fast. Because what was important for Swamiji was that we don't keep the knowledge to ourselves. What was important to him that we spread this knowledge, we teach them this knowledge to other people. And it did happen. This knowledge that Swamiji gave us reached millions and millions and millions of people. Every year, more centers are opening, more teachers. We train over 30,000 teachers. And I think even if each one of these teachers will train a few hundreds, think how many people will be reached. So my observation is that the organization is stronger and stronger. It's very pure. The reason I say it's very pure because even if we may have once in a while disagreement about the meaning, what did Swamiji mean when he said this? It's actually very good. I would not like to be in an organization with all the acharyas have the same opinion. I would feel it's not nature and not healthy. It's good that each one has his own view. But it's very pure because each one of the acharyas with great sincerity dedicates his or her life completely in order to carry Swamiji's mission. And it is true. This is how it is. So personally I think that Swamiji is very happy. And personally I think the organization now is stronger than it ever was. And it continues to grow. It's not stagnant. It really continues. So this is my view.
Thank you, Swamiji. Thank you, Srinivasa. Now the last question there, the gentleman.
I'm not sure if there is enough time for questions here, but I have a comment which I really like to sorry. I mean, actually I had a comment and a question as well. Not sure if I have time for a question, but at least the comment. I came here for the family week and I was very, very impressed. My family was very, very happy, and I saw many other families too. They really enjoyed whatever was available to us, including Arjuna, who actually helped us in many ways, and many, many volunteers, and it was very, very impressive. In fact, it was very emotional to many of the families. I really appreciate it, and thank you for organizing this and helping many families in this regard.
Thank you very much. Was Swami Vishnu, among other things, to let the message go along with the youngest generation of children. So he started children camp actually in Maryland many years ago. That is a huge citizen of the world being trained in the yoga discipline. Okay, so again, thank you very much, and also thank you, Arjuna, for the good job that you're doing. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Om Namah Shivaya. Hope you're all enjoying being with Acharyas. I just want to say that Swami Mahadevananda is in charge of the yoga camp here, and he always have these lofty ideas that which we need to execute most of the time. Just being with Swami vishnu-devananda. Few years ago we used to do the symposiums. Then we started with the staff reunion. As you know, many people they leave the organization and they go for many reasons. Okay. And some of them with bad terms, some of them with good terms. So a few years ago he wanted to have reunion of all the staff here. And then last 2 years, from that reunion when we had, some people gave the ideas that we need to invite all these 25,000 or 33,000 teachers that are outside. Okay. So last 2 years we had this teachers reunion, which was very successful. And then last year, when that is over, then suddenly we realized it's the 50th year celebration. Okay, so I just want to share something what happened in the meeting. So we took this request to the EBM, and so Mahadevananda invited all the EBM to come for the teachers reunion. So there, the EBM, because of their busy schedule, they all couldn't come, and there was a stage that they were all pulling off from that. Okay? And suddenly there is a suggestion come that, can we do it 2 times? So I'm looking at myself, it's okay, they can make a decision, in the end we need to execute, it's not easy. No? So how are we going to do 2 times? But when I see these 2 days actually, this was Swami Vishnu's intention actually. He wanted this to happen this way. We had yesterday Swami Sarupananda couldn't come. So there were questions coming to Swami Mahadevananda and Srinivas, and there was not enough time. Okay? Today we have Swami Sarupananji, still that not enough time. So there is a lot of questions that are coming, and people wanted to know what is the future of the organization, and you heard. And tomorrow morning we continue with this. Okay? Swami Sarupananji will be giving the satsang, because so far he hasn't given any satsangs here. And during that satsang, Swamiji will be taking the question and answers. Okay? So how it works, instead of people standing up on the mic, you please write down your question. You have a day now to think overnight. Okay? Tomorrow morning you bring your questions. Okay? We'll collect them at the door, and then during satsang, after Swamiji finishes the chanting, he will answer. Okay? And then we continue. Swami Mahadevanji is going to be here, and if you're still here, of course you can have more clarification on the teachings and so on. Okay? That's one thing. Then going back to meditation and mantras. Okay? I forgot to mention. Okay, so sometimes it's been inaugurated, but we also need to thank some people. So we had a staff here last year. Her name is Karuna, and she was a movie she used to work in some plays and movies, and she had a good voice. And during times that I had with her, I was talking to her, and we realized that she can actually do some of this work. And then when I went to one of the meetings, Swami Mahadevananda bought this book audio book by Paramahamsa Yogananda. Okay, so it was done by Ben Kingsley. So I contacted Karuna, and Karuna said she can do it. So how they are doing it in Montreal, they have a small studio that one of the other staff, Ananda, he's recording everything. So the reason that they are not here this weekend, because they are now working on completely illustrated book of yoga. Even though they are not there, on behalf of EBM and our organization, we want to give them a big heartfelt thanks to Karuna, who is doing this recording. Please give a big hand. And then we have Ananda, who is recording all this. It's not easy job. Everything needs to be recorded, and then you need to edit it, you need to fix it. So it's a lot of work. Okay, please give a big hand to Ananda. Some of the Sanskrit, we are talking about Sanskrit. I know that when a Western person does the Sanskrit, if they are not trained properly, it won't come right. So we had one of the Swamiji's closest disciple, Prema. She did the Sanskrit part on this, and she's not here also. But they all will be here next week or so. Please give her a big hand also. And tonight we have this wonderful dance performance. So go take class and eat, and then come back for the dance performance. And now Swami Mahadevananda will do the final prayers, and we continue on with the program. Thank you. Pomo.
Oh. Drishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Peace Peace Peace. Om Bolo Sadguru Sivananda Maharaj Ki. Om Bolo Sadguru vishnu-devananda Maharaj Ki. That's it. Thank you, Swami Sivananda ji. Thank you, Srinivas. Thank you all.